Alrighty, we're back and trying to get the witness back.
Oh, yes, yeah, thanks.
Very good, and we're going to continue with our testimony. I think we lined out some of the issues we had to deal with. Very good. Bad, Mr. Morris?
Detective Mueller, when we broke, I was asking you some questions about the status of your ongoing investigation, particularly after you had interviewed the defendant Douglas Stangeland in June of 2010. Okay, that's the beginning point.
Okay.
And I had asked you if at some point in time, and I'll reference September of 2010, in the course of your investigation, you had reviewed an interview of an individual named Roy Slates, which occurred in Vernon County in Missouri. Do you recollect doing that?
Yes.
And as a result of your reviewing that particular document, you also accumulated some other documents which were to look at some copies of checks and bank records, I believe, regarding a $10,000 check that involved Mr. Slates.
Yes.
And those were made part of your file, correct?
Correct.
And as a result of that review of the interview, as well as a review of that evidence, you determined that you would obtain or prepare a probable cause warrant and cause a warrant to issue against Mr. Slates, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Slates was ultimately apprehended in the state of Missouri and arrested, correct?
Correct.
Now, other than the things that I mentioned, your review of his interview and your ongoing investigation, was there anything else that would have contributed to your reason for causing the arrest warrant for Mr. Slates to issue?
I believe that was all it was.
And obviously, you believe that he was a participant in this series of crimes that have been committed.
Yes.
Now, subsequent to that occurring, you continued your investigation into the following year and the year after that, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And at some point in time, you were called upon to testify before the grand jury, correct?
Correct.
And in the year 2013, particularly in November, do you have a recollection of going out to Missouri for purposes of interviewing additional witnesses?
Yes.
What was it that precipitated you and I believe it was Detective D'Annabelle,
Yes.
to go to Missouri in November of 2013?
There was some follow-up investigation that needed to be conducted, some possible additional witnesses, and possible review with the Vernon County Sheriff's Department.
Did you have a list of people that you wanted to interview?
Yes.
And were they people that were in Missouri?
Yes.
And was it more convenient for you to go out there than to bring them back here to interview?
Yes.
And did you, while you were in Missouri in November of 2013, interview an individual named Kimberly Hunter?
Yes.
What if any other individuals did you interview while you were out there?
If I remember, it was Ms. Hunter, her daughters. I believe Mr. Scammell was possibly spoken to by some other detectives, as well as the gentleman from the convenience store that was in there. I can't remember his name right now.
Did you also at some time during that journey seek to visit the residence of Lonnie Swarns in Missouri?
Yes.
Did you go there?
Yes.
And did you have occasion to seek to interview Mr. Swarns' son?
Yeah, we spoke to him.
How about Mr. Stangeland's former wife, Tammy Stangeland? Did you speak to her?
I personally did not.
Do you know whether anyone in your contingency, so to speak, from New Jersey did interview her?
Someone did, I believe it may have been Detective Mueller from the prosecutor's office.
I see. And with regard to Mr. Stangeland's son, you have been aware for some time that his son had lived at the residence with Mr. Barger and Mr. Stangeland, correct?
Correct.
And did you or anyone from your contingency interview Mr. Stangeland's son, Derek?
It was not me, I believe it was Detective Mueller and possibly another detective while they were speaking to Tammy.
Did First Assistant Prosecutor Gregory Mueller participate in these interviews?
He was there, yes.
And this was a special trip in November of 2013, correct?
Correct.
And I assume it wasn't funded by the state of Missouri, it was funded by the state of New Jersey.
Correct.
With regard to your ongoing investigation, as a result of your visit out there, did anything meaningful or of evidentiary value come out of your investigation?
I don't believe there was any evidence that was seized, aside from speaking to some witnesses and some other friends, family members, associates, whatever you want to call them. It was informational gathering.
How long did your interview of Kimberly Hunter last?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
5 minutes?
Longer than 5 minutes, maybe an hour.
Where did that interview take place?
Her home.
And was it recorded?
No.
At some point in time, I believe you had a recording device that was capable of recording an interview, am I correct?
Yes.
You had like a zip drive or something, I believe, type recorder, small?
Oh, yeah, that's small, Panasonic.
Right.
Whatever you want to call it.
And were any of the interviews with any of the other witnesses that you went out there to see recorded to your knowledge?
Not that I'm aware of.
You haven't seen any transcripts or any discs to your knowledge about those?
No.
Mr. William Barger was arrested at some point in time, I believe he brought back to New Jersey, December of 2010?
Yes.
And did you participate in the preparation of the probable cause statement for bringing Mr. Barger back here to the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
And prior to his being brought back here, were there charges against him that had been lodged for any of the events that occurred here in New Jersey?
At some point, yeah, warrants were issued for his arrest.
Would it be fair to say that they were issued after the warrants were issued for Stangeland, Swarns, and Wadle?
Yes.
And did your investigation include interviewing Mr. William Barger?
Yes.
And did that take place here in New Jersey?
Yes, at the new police station.
Was there participation at some time in your investigation with individuals from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI?
In initial stages, there was an FBI agent from Missouri that was a part of the initial investigation, like I said, and I believe at some point the FBI here in New Jersey was also involved.
And you, in fact, picked Mr. Barger up from, I believe, FBI agents, if I'm correct.
The U.S. Marshal's Office.
U.S. Marshals, I stand corrected. With regard to your investigation concerning this particular matter, you indicated that you caused 3 firearms to be fired at the range, I believe, up in Frankfort Township.
Yes.
And you, of course, are certified to fire a firearm, I assume, correct?
Correct.
And you are a law enforcement officer.
Yes.
With regard to the .38 caliber detective special, I think it was referred to, you fired that weapon, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you said you fired 1 round,
Yes.
and it was an operable weapon.
Correct.
You, of course, had little other contact with that weapon because you didn't retrieve it from its original location. You didn't unload it, I assume, am I correct?
Correct.
So accompanying that weapon when you took it to the range were some bullets, correct?
Correct.
And you took one of those and put it in the chamber and used it to test fire the
Yes.
particular weapon. You did not participate in any identification concerning those weapons other than to identify them with the evidence log by serial number, am I correct?
Correct.
You didn't determine of your own volition the ownership of those particular firearms, am I correct?
I don't believe I did.
Do you know whether anyone else from your department may have done so?
I don't remember.
You indicated that in your ongoing investigation, which had occurred, there were indications that the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office had been involved in this investigation as well as your department, correct?
Correct.
And back in January 28th or so of 2010, you recollect that you were provided with information concerning email accounts, particularly email addresses that had been searched by the prosecutor's office?
Yes.
You wrote a report back sometime in September of 2010 regarding the fact that certain email accounts came back belonging to William Barger, am I correct?
Correct.
And do you need to refer to that report or a copy of it in order for me to ask you a question? Or
If you have a copy, sure.
I only have the one I'm going to ask you from, but let me see.
I'll give it back to you.
You know, perhaps it should be marked, Judge.
Okay, we can mark it and copy it.
You too.
I'll show you what has been marked D2, Detective, and ask if you just peruse it. I believe it's 3 pages long. You had a chance to review it, correct?
Correct.
On page 1, in the second paragraph, there is a reference to several email addresses. And I assume you prepared this report and that would be your typing, so to speak, correct?
Correct.
And do they accurately reflect the information that you had received concerning the email addresses?
Yes.
And those email addresses came from the investigation of this case in general, not only by yourself, but by others, correct?
Correct.
You incorporated them into your official report.
Yes.
And one of them is bargertcw@yahoo.com, correct?
Correct.
One of them is billswc@sbcglobal.net.
Yes.
One of them is red and white underline 81@yahoo.com, correct?
Correct.
And toccw@hotmail.com, correct?
Correct.
And according to your report, they were all registered to William Barger or a business called Barger Enterprises in a place called Clinton, Missouri.
Correct.
And that's part of your investigation?
Yes.
Your paragraph goes on to say, the results also showed that Barger TCW@yahoo.com and billswc@sbcglobal.net email accounts were associated with a profile in Yahoo called, in quotes, Billy's Small World Dish, correct?
Yes, correct.
And you also had, in your investigation, indicated that the billswc@sbcglobal.net email account was also linked to Barger's cell phone, right?
Correct.
Right. And your report goes on to basically indicate, if I'm correct, that it was Mr. Barger who was the one responsible for opening and maintaining those accounts.
Yes.
Mr. Stangeland had given you consent regarding access to his email accounts too, am I correct?
Correct.
And there was evidence that there was some contact between the email accounts of Mr. Stangeland as well as the email accounts of Mr. Barger that were referred to during the course of the time around January 8, 2010, correct?
Correct.
And in that second page of that same report, it indicated that records showed that between January 4th and January 9th, there were over 200 text messages between Sworns and Barger. Is that correct?
Yes, it's what it says.
And that there were approximately 120 text messages between Stangeland and Barger between January 4th and January 9th, correct?
Correct.
So your investigation indicated that there were communications that took place during key times in regard to the incident in January of 2010 regarding the involvement of William Barger.
Yes.
And that contribute to your seeking the warrant to have Mr. Barger charged here in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
That information was available back in February of 2010, but as I understand it, Mr. Barger was not formally charged until later in that year. Is that fair?
Yes.
Was there an ongoing investigation of some sort concerning Mr. Barger that was not reduced to a report by you and that occurred in the interim?
No.
Mr. Mueller asked you a question on direct examination regarding the firearms. He asked you if Mr. Stangeland had a New Jersey permit to carry a firearm in the state of New Jersey, and your answer was no. Is that correct? Was that something that you yourself know or recollect, that you didn't have such a permit?
It's something I recollect.
Is it something someone else told you, or is it something that you researched yourself?
Something that another detective had investigated.
Did you also interview Andrew Wadle at some point in time?
No, I did not.
Did you ultimately ever interview Roy Slates?
No.
You indicated you did interview William Barger, however, correct?
Correct.
With regard to your entire investigation, did you conclude that both Mr. Slates and Mr. Barger were active participants in the illegal acts which you ultimately charged my client, Mr. Stangeland, with?
Yes.
Without getting into any hearsay statements, would it be fair to say that the totality of your investigation was something that you were satisfied with, and that it corroborated the information that you had received along the way that these particular individuals have been involved in the kidnapping of Mr. Muller here in Newton.
Yes, correct.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Roscoe?
Just very briefly, Jim. Mr. Morrison referenced some emails that registered to an account, actually various accounts, to Mr. Barger, correct? And I think you reflected that in your reports. We actually had marked the actual emails S-184 through S-192. I'd ask you to take a look at those. Now, there's communication via email from an account or accounts registered to Mr. Barger. Who are the emails being sent to and from? Who's on the other end of those emails?
They're from one of William Barger's email accounts to Doug Stangeland's.
Okay. And you could go through all of those. Is Doug Stangeland or an account registered to him involved with all of those emails?
Yes.
You indicated that between, I think, January 4th and January 8th, there was 120 text messages between Doug Stangeland and William Barger.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There was I think you testified 120 text messages between Doug Stangeland and William Barger between the dates of, I think it was January 4th and January 8th. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
To your knowledge, what happened to those text messages?
They were erased. The content itself was erased.
And based on your investigation, who erased them? Did law enforcement erase them, or was that done by the defendant?
It was done by the defendant.
Mr. Morrison asked you a question about whether Mr. Stangeland had a permit to purchase a firearm, and whether you made that determination yourself. Who did you learn that from? Which detective?
Detective Tomlin
Detective Tom.
from the prosecutor's office.
Thank you. I have nothing else.
Anything additional?
Did you ever ask Mr. Stangeland whether or not he had deleted any of the email messages when you interviewed him in June of 2010?
I don't believe I did.
Do you recall whether or not he ever indicated to you that there were such email messages that were exchanged?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
The ones the prosecutor has just shown you, had you seen them before? Yes. Yes.
These are emails.
Emails, okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen them before?
Yes.
Okay. With regard to emails, did you ask Mr. Stangeland whether or not any emails have been generated by him or have been deleted by him?
During the interview?
Yes.
At that point, no, I didn't.
I have nothing further.
Nothing else, Judge.
Very good, you can step down, watch you step off the platform here.
Judge, could we approach for a moment?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Should I excuse the jury for a few moments, do you think, or?
Perhaps not,
Yeah.
Judge. We may be able to resolve this quickly. Judge, state will call one last witness, Detective Tom Laird.
Very good, come on.
Very limited area, Judge.
We'll swear you in. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very good. Could you state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Thomas Laird, L-A-I-R-D.
Very good.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Where do you work?
The Sussex County Prosecutor's Office.
And in what capacity do you work there?
I'm a detective assigned to the Major Crimes Unit.
How long have you been a detective with our office?
With Sussex County since June of 2013.
And before that?
I was with the Morris County Prosecutor's Office.
Now, at some point, were you asked to determine if this defendant, Douglas Stangeland, had ever obtained a permit to carry a handgun in the state of New Jersey?
Yes,
And did you conduct that research? Did you look into that?
I did.
And did this defendant ever have a permit to carry a handgun in the state of New Jersey?
No, he didn't.
Okay. And how did you go about verifying that?
Through a system called NCIC, National Crime Information Center, there's a section of that system that allows us to research if a person has ever applied for or received a firearms ID card or a pistol permit or anything along the lines of applying to possess or purchase a firearm. I ran Mr. Stangeland's name through there, and there's nothing found that he ever applied for or received a permit or an application, even applied for it.
Very good. No further questions, sir.
When you ran his name, did you run it with a middle initial?
I ran it by social security number as well.
I see. And you obtained that information, I assume, from some official records that were in your office?
Correct, the police reports.
And with regard to your review of it, it indicated solely what would have been the case regarding a permit issued by the state of New Jersey, correct?
Yes, the New Jersey State Police.
Okay. The NCIC system did not incorporate other states that might have issued him such a permit?
No, it did not.
And when you reviewed that information, it came back in the negative, evidencing no application and no issuance, correct?
That's correct.
Did you use an address as well?
No, the fields that allow you to fill out are name, date of birth, and combination of the two, and a separate field that allows for just social security number.
Did you do anything with regard to the alleged firearms themselves, such as check the serial numbers to see if they were registered to a particular person here in New Jersey?
No, I did not.
Were you able to do that if you wanted to? Were you capable of doing that?
Yes, I could have. Yes.
How would you do that? What system?
There's a system through the ATF. It's a trace, firearms trace, and it involves serial number, make, and model of the firearm. And by running those different fields, you're able to determine the manufacturer, where the firearm was imported into the United States, if it wasn't made in the U.S., as well as where it was sold and what state it was initially sold in.
What year did you come on board with the Sussex County Prosecutor's Office?
2013.
That would have been after this incident occurred, correct?
Yes, correct.
Before that, you worked in the Morris County Prosecutor's Office?
Yes, sir.
Did the Morris County Prosecutor's Office in any way, shape, or form, to your knowledge, get involved in any way in this investigation?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Whether somebody has a firearm registered to them, even if it is properly registered to them, does that allow them to carry it in public in the state of New Jersey?
Not generally. There's a specific permit to carry in New Jersey that is issued by the New Jersey State Police, or that would be applicable in New Jersey.
Now, did you or another detective in your office, to your knowledge, determine if this defendant ever got a proper carry permit in the state of Missouri?
I did not determine that. I'm not sure of that. I definitely did not do anything with that.
Very good. Okay, that's all.
Are you familiar with a federal statute that allows a carry permit from another state to apply in another foreign state?
Judge, getting obviously into a legal area, and that's actually already been decided. You need a New Jersey permit in the state of New Jersey to carry in New Jersey.
That's what he said.
Right.
Well,
fantastic.
I don't know, come on up for a second. And watch your step coming down.
Thank
All right. I think we will take a recess, ladies and gentlemen, and then we'll get back to work. Thank you very much.